All right, today we're going to tackle something really cool. We're looking at a brand new way to think about mental health, not just as labels we use, but through the hard lens of physics. We are diving deep into what's called the Brain Kinematics Model.
So let's just jump right in with the big question here. What if everything we call anxiety, depression, or burnout, what if they aren't just psychological labels? What if they're actually symptoms of a physical system in your brain that's just out of balance? It's a huge shift in perspective, moving from how we feel to how the system itself is actually working.
And that's where this new framework comes in, the Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM for short. It's designed to give us a totally new lens, a way to see our minds in terms of physical strain and flow. It's a whole new way to understand how our minds work and what's happening when they struggle.
Okay, so if we're going to get our heads around this model, we've got to learn the lingo first. We're about to break down the key ingredients, the parameters, that the model uses to describe the physics of our feelings.
First up, we've got R, which stands for residual strain. Now, the best way to think about this is like background static in your head. You know that constant low-level hum of worry, or those thoughts that you just can't stop replaying? That's R. It's the unresolved tension just hanging out in your system.
Next, there's V for vertical drive. This is all about the raw emotional pressure that comes from deep inside. Think of it as this force of our gut feelings, our core drives, and our impulses just surging upwards.
And then you have H for horizontal integration. This is the flow of thought. It's how your mind smoothly connects one idea to the next, like a chain of associations, letting you build a coherent train of thought.
Now, this one is absolutely crucial. C for cognitive loop stability. This is your brain's ability to actually grab onto a problem, run a dedicated process to think it through, and then, hopefully, reach some kind of conclusion. It's your built-in problem-solving engine.
And finally, there's HST, homeostatic load. The metaphor here is super simple and intuitive. It's your system's battery level. When your HST is high, you are running on fumes. It's a direct line to physical and mental exhaustion. In other words, burnout.
Okay, so we've got the building blocks. Now let's put them into action and see how this model really works. We're going to see how these different parameters mix and match to describe conditions we're all pretty familiar with.
So what does anxiety look like through the BKM lens? Well, it's a combo of high residual strain. That background static is cranked up to 11, and a really high vertical drive, so there's a ton of emotional pressure. You mix that with a weak cognitive loop, a weak C, and the whole system just gets flooded. Strain is pouring in way faster than your brain can possibly process it. Now this is where it gets really fascinating. Check out how BKM describes depression. The number one factor here is a sky-high homeostatic load. The battery is just totally drained. And because of that extreme fatigue, both the horizontal and vertical flows, thought and emotion, they just collapse. Everything grinds to a halt. That background stream, the R, it doesn't overflow like an anxiety, it just sits there, stuck. The whole system just freezes. And this slide just lays it out perfectly, right? In anxiety, the system is overactive, and all that strain overflows. But in depression, the system is suppressed and the strain freezes. So from a mechanical point of view, they're almost opposites. One is a system stuck in overdrive, and the other is a system that's been forced into a total shutdown.
Okay, what about ADHD? Well, according to this model, it's a system with really low damping. That means your thoughts and emotions are super reactive. Add in a weak cognitive loop, that C parameter, and it becomes really hard to lock onto any one thing. This creates a state where the brain is constantly surprised and distracted by new information, so it's always shifting attention. The signal you're trying to focus on gets lost in all the noise.
But here's the really hopeful part. BKM doesn't just describe the problem, it actually points to a solution. For ADHD, it's all about rebalancing the system. You can use routines to control all that input noise, you can use physical activity to stabilize that chaotic flow, and you can use training techniques to strengthen that all-important cognitive loop. See? It's about tuning the mechanics, not just managing the symptoms. And this is where we zoom out and see just how powerful this whole idea can be. Because it's not just about explaining a couple of conditions. The goal here is to create a unified map of the mind, showing how all these different states might be connected by the very same underlying physics. Just check this out. The model reframes at least 8 major mental health conditions using this single unified system. That suggests we might have a common language, a common mechanical language, for a huge spectrum of human experience. And this
This is the grand summary. This table really pulls it all together. Just look. For every condition, there's a specific physical imbalance and a clear goal for treatment. For PTSD, it's about a trauma-weighted memory, so the goal is to reconsolidate it. For OCD, it's a strain loop that's stuck in a rut, so the goal is to expand that mental space. Every single one has a clear physical target. We're moving away from fuzzy labels and towards tangible mechanics.
So, what does all this actually mean for treatment and recovery? Well, it's a fundamental shift in how we think about it. It's about moving away from fighting a label and moving toward rebalancing a dynamic system.
And this right here is the absolute core of it. The goal isn't to find what's wrong with you or to fix something that's broken. It's simply to restore balance, to get the system's natural flows moving in a healthy way again.
So this means that no matter the approach, whether it's therapy or medication or lifestyle changes, you can understand it through these goals. Are you draining that background static, that R? Are you rebalancing your thought and emotional flows? Are you reducing the overall load on your system? This gives us a framework to understand why different treatments actually work on a deep mechanical level. Okay, I know this quote looks super technical, but stick with me, because we can actually understand it now. Strain flow imbalance, that's our residual strain and our horizontal/vertical flows being out of whack. And viscoelastic memory emotion manifold, that's just a fancy way of saying the physical, flexible structures of our brain where memory and emotion live. So what it's really saying is that our mental health struggles are just problems of physics, not just feelings.
And so that's the big question we're left with, isn't it? Could this be the future? Thinking about our minds less like a list of diagnoses and more like a physical system that just needs to be rebalanced, adjusting its pressure, its tension, its flow. It's a really powerful thought to leave you with.